During a national crisis, a plague, or a moment of severe societal breakdown, 2 Chronicles 7:14 often becomes a spiritual emergency button. This animated diagram illustrates the standard transactional reading of the verse. It functions as a contract for human actions, humbling, praying, seeking, and turning, in exchange for 3 divine responses: hearing, forgiving, and healing. This transactional view creates a cycle of performance-based anxiety. When a crisis remains, the assumption is that we failed to pray with enough sincerity or meet the necessary conditions, leading to deeper desperation. Reading the promise in reverse changes the perspective. This verse describes the internal condition required to receive healing, rather than a formula used to activate a divine response. This promise functions as a spiritual X-ray. It diagnoses the internal state of the heart, moving past the surface-level goals of political strategy or national revival. These words were first spoken in the dead of night, following the 7-day dedication of Solomon's temple. At this time, Israel was wealthy, unified, and at peace. Yet God issued a warning about future droughts, famines, and plagues into this period of prosperity. Within the covenant framework, disasters serve as divine alarms. They are intentional mercies designed to capture the attention of a people who have drifted away. God addresses the promise specifically to "my people." This is a family conversation. It is a pathway home for wayward children who already carry His name. Instead of an external checklist to fix a country, the text outlines the internal anatomy of a surrendered heart. This transformation follows a chronological progression. The first step, kana, or humbling oneself, signifies an admission of bankruptcy. It is the surrender of the illusion of being in charge. This contrasts with Pharaoh in the book of Exodus. His refusal to yield led to the ruin of Egypt. Humility is the act of looking at the consequences of our own wandering and admitting we cannot fix the situation. The second step, palal, describes an act of intercession. We submit our failed solutions to a righteous judge, asking for a definitive assessment of our situation. This leads to the third step, seek my face. The Hebrew bakash panim represents an intense striving after a relationship. It is the desire for the giver himself, rather than the healing he provides. Seeking God's hands and seeking His face represent 2 distinct postures. Seeking His face acknowledges that we are the root of the problem. If the heart desires Him, the fourth step, shub, or turning, becomes inevitable. This turning signifies a joyful return home. Willpower alone fails to sustain this change because our wicked ways often serve as survival mechanisms or sources of comfort. We only abandon them when drawn away by a greater desire. Turning is the final step because humility, prayer, and seeking God's face create the internal environment where a change of direction is possible. If national healing depends on the perfection of our own humility and turning, the situation is hopeless. Our efforts are consistently incomplete and mixed with pride. In the Christian tradition, Jesus Christ serves as the representative who fulfills the progression of 2 Chronicles. The Beatitudes in the Sermon on the Mount mirror the internal requirements of the Old Testament covenant. Being poor in spirit reflects the posture of kana. Those who mourn echoes palal, and being pure in heart aligns with bakash panim. Through the crucifixion, the second half of the verse finds fulfillment. God provides forgiveness of sin and initiates the healing of the world. This perspective shifts the focus away from the quality of our own repentance. Hope rests on the perfection of the representative. Our spiritual state resembles a patient suffering from life-threatening dehydration. Pride and self-seeking are the symptoms of this condition. A doctor treats a dying patient by hooking them up to an IV. The focus is on the steady flow of life-giving fluid, rather than a manual on how to find water. The patient's returning strength is the evidence of receiving the water. It is not the means by which they earned the treatment. This process describes a gift to be received. By surrendering to the work of the Spirit, the internal qualities of humility and turning are produced within the heart, leading to the healing promised from the beginning.